Welcome to the Ayer Board of Selectmen meeting for January 15th, 2019. We have any, I don't see any announcements.
No announcements.
Any amendments to the agenda?
I don't have any.
Nope.
I might want to touch on something on Selectmen's questions, but nothing that...
Do you want to add it?
No, we'll see how we're going in time, just
Okay.
kind of something maybe for the next meeting.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. First of all, bear with me, everybody. I haven't been here since October 8th because of some surgery, so I just wanted to thank everybody for their well wishes. And my friend over here is a hell of a cook. He brought me some food the first night I was home from the hospital in November. So Mrs. Capasso sent me a card, Mary. A lot of people in town reached out, so I really do appreciate everybody checking in on me. It meant a lot. And now I'm back. I'm ready to roll. So thanks again. All right, I guess, I'm sorry, I didn't do the Pledge of Allegiance. And a little rusty in the chair position. Everybody rise to the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Unfortunately, Selectman Livingston's a little under the weather, so we're not sure if she's going to be joining us this evening. So she feels better. Anybody here for public input? All right. 7:15. Go a little early. For the Devon's disposition study, is everybody? Yeah. Oh, great.
Thank you, Alan.
Yes.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hello.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, town manager. My name is Victor Norman. I'm chairman of the Harvard Devon's Jurisdiction Committee. Lucy Wallace, our board chair, had scheduled to be here, but she has her board meeting is tonight, so I'm here tonight with Susan Mary Redinger, who is on the school committee, former chair of the school committee.
Susan.
So I appreciate the opportunity to be here and just wanted to bring you up to date. Lucy and I did meet with Robert and Janice a couple of months ago to explain exactly what we were up to in Harvard. In summary, it's been an ongoing concern in the town of Harvard. What does Harvard want with respect to Devon's? Decades, it seems. And so the voters actually passed a referendum in 2017 that said, okay, the town of Harvard is ready to resume jurisdiction over its portion of Devon's, but we need an analysis of exactly what it is that we will be resuming. And so the select board now in Harvard, as it is called, formed this committee, and there are 9 members of the committee, including 2 residents of Devon's, as well as representatives of the school committee, planning board. And we've been meeting now for the past 3 months, trying to organize our approach to answering the question raised by the voters in Harvard. We were informed in terms of what we should do by our most recent master plan. There were those in town who hoped that our master planning process, which was done about 2 years ago, would help us understand exactly what Devon's was all about. Unfortunately, that task was well beyond the scope of what a master planning consultant is able to do. Well, what they were able to do is to look at all of the elements of a master plan and come to the conclusion that every one of them would be affected by the resumption of jurisdiction at Devon's to a greater or lesser extent. And then further identify this as a major planning effort on the part of a consultant. And that it was beyond the scope of local boards and the towns to actually understand what it is that Devon's has become. And so what we've done, the letter that you recently received was what we call the ask. And Mass Development has sent representatives to our meetings over the past 3 months, and they participated in the discussion. And the letter basically summarizes what we're up to Mass Development and asks them to participate in to become involved in the process, as well as to fund this consultant. And although this is really cast as a request from the town of Harvard, I mean, it's really clear to all of us that if Mass Development is so inclined to do this, and we hope they will, that they would do the same for the other 2 towns. It just makes perfect sense. So what the approach has been to look at the resumption of jurisdiction along the lines of the historic town boundaries. And we've done this as a starting point. And we think that it makes sense to do that. And we expect that this analysis, in summary, will do 4 things. One, it will identify the costs of the resumption of municipal jurisdiction, the potential revenues to support those costs. We'll identify those areas where it would affect the town in terms of the way that the town operates. And then finally identify the areas where, areas of conflict, for lack of a better word, that would need to be resolved, because we all know Devon's was operated as a single entity and not along town lines. And then finally the report would tee up a subsequent study which would talk about implementation. So after this analysis were done, the voters in Harvard would be able to look at the impact of resuming jurisdiction and determine whether it's viable with respect to the town. And again, unspoken is that the other towns would similarly be engaged and come to terms with that and negotiate these conflicts, and then move forward to an implementation schedule. I think that the position that Mass Development has taken in the past, and we fully expect that they will take it now, initially anyway, is that it's premature to do this. That there's still more work to be done, still more things to be accomplished. And we don't disagree with that, but what we are fully aware of is that in order to do this analysis, hiring a consultant, do the analysis, this could take a couple of years to accomplish that. And then when you move into an implementation stage, that could take 3 years, 5 years,
Sure.
even longer. Because I think the intent of any implementation on everybody's part is going to be to protect the interests of the town and to protect the interests of the Commonwealth, so that the redevelopment of Devon's proceeds as intended, and that the residents and businesses at Devon's are not, and the residents of the towns are not suddenly faced with a major transition. And so we're here to answer any questions you have. Again, this ask has just been made. The letter went out last week, and we have our next meeting the first Thursday of the month, and we hope for some feedback from Mass Development at that point. And then what we expect to do going forward is to address their concerns, and hopefully we'll be able to convince them that it really does make sense to begin the process of, again, for lack of a better expression, unwinding Chapter 498 and planning reasonably and in a way that is not forced upon us, if you will, by some kind of a crisis that we don't have. Who could imagine? There's no urgency about what we do, but that's precisely why we wanted to move forward on this right now. So we're here to answer any questions you may have.
Comment first. I mean, I think it's a great approach, and think that we need to follow suit in a similar fashion as you.
We are.
And and it, like you said, there's so much more than just taking back historical boundaries. there's the school impact, there's the tax impact, there's the, you know, infrastructure. There's a lot to it, and it really makes sense to get the process started now, because as you said, we're not that far away from the set date. What I always forget is
2033.
2033 is unfortunately not that far away in the grand scheme of things. So.
And I would echo that, you know, we've had mass development at our meetings, and while you could say it was premature, I think they also agreed. It really isn't too soon to be talking about this. It is the right time, and it will take a concerted effort. So I think in the past we've tried to do something on our own, and it just really won't work. And so they'd like to see all three towns really sort of move forward, maybe not lockstep and barrel at the same time, but certainly engaged in the process.
Mr. Chair, so since we last met, the Ayer Board of Selectmen have authorized the creation of a committee similar to what you have in Harvard. Why reinvent the wheel, as they say? So modeled a lot after your approach, and we're in the process. We're going to talk later this evening about getting that committee, you know, appointed and so forth, moving forward. I was just interested in your experience, since you've been meeting about the last 3 months or so, sort of how what your committee has been doing in more specifics. In other words, we obviously want to have a specific focus as you do, and move forward with it, as opposed to just another committee, if you will. So what are the things that you've been doing, or your various members have been doing?
Okay, well, one thing that the charge from the select board to our committee is, includes many elements, one of which is to keep the towns informed. And also we've sent I think you should be current on all our meeting minutes, and they're online as well. We've kept Mass Development informed of what we've been doing, and we've also kept and met with our State House delegation as well. We've met with Jen Benson and Jamie Eldridge. We've reached out to Sheila Harrington a couple of times. We're just waiting to hear back from her. We're trying to be transparent in the process, having conversations. We're also trying to engage people within the town. And a major effort we're doing right now is that we've assigned different boards, department heads and boards and committee chairs within the town to a member of the committee to open a line of communication and to get their feedback. What would be your concern, whether it's the Department of Public Works, the school department, the Conservation Commission, what would be your concern? We don't know what we don't know, and what's on their mind, and I think that what we would do, we have a process. We're going to collect that information, and that would be the kind of thing that we would hand off to a consultant. That, you know, these are, you may have experience in doing this sort of thing, but these are local concerns. And then in general, Robert, I think just having conversations and trying to, particularly with respect to the residents of Devens, like what is your feedback on all this, and what would be your concerns, because they're really the ones who are kind of stranded out there politically. And not that they have very many complaints, although it's interesting that Mass Development a couple of months ago held a board meeting at Devens, and I was there. Were you there, Susan?
No, I wasn't there.
And a number of residents showed up, and they had a concern, and you'll all appreciate this. It had to do with traffic, so they were talking to these investment bankers, real estate developers, really high-powered folks who are on the Mass Development Board about traffic, and the only response they could get from the board was, "Thank you very much for bringing that concern to our attention." So, you know, Devens provides municipal services, but they're not really a town, you know, and that's an issue, I think.
So I attended the Vicksburg Square hearing that they held over in Devon's, and it was a Devon's committee meeting first, followed by
Yeah.
the Vicksburg Square hearing, and 90% of the conversation was around the traffic, even around Vicksburg Square, when they were looking at the density of the project, the number of cars, and it always circled back to the traffic in the area.
Yeah.
And I share your agreement that they're kind of hung out to dry politically because they don't really have any real pushback against elected officials.
And I think, I worked at Devon's for 10 years, but I was there more than 10 years ago, and the resident population was very small, and it was very easy to keep them satisfied with the level of service level that they got. And I remember the first residents who moved there, they were given flowers and candy. I mean, it was really a new experience, and really no friction. And it was there for a long time. But now that there is more of a significant resident population, they're beginning to be confronted with issues that you all deal with on a regular basis. And I guess that's kind of one of the sleeper issues that really could accelerate into a crisis of sorts, is when they have been disenfranchised, and intentionally, and for the purpose of accomplishing a higher priority, and that is to replace the thousands of jobs that were lost when the base closed, and that overrode the need for people who live there to have local representation. But is it still a valid argument that they shouldn't have representation? And Susan Mary will tell you, I mean, they vote. Susan Mary ran for the school committee. They vote for her, but she only indirectly represents them because of a contract that exists, and that's a little different than political enfranchisement. But
Has there been the J-Boss, has there been any talk about that, or was it even useful when I know Gary was our representation for that, but did it do anything? Did that help in any way with the dialogue between the towns?
if I may comment on that, my experience when I attended many J-Boss meetings was that any time anything came up that was at least a bit controversial, J-Boss members felt as though they had to come back to their board to get guidance. So they were not empowered. They exist as an advisory group. They're not required to exist under Chapter 498. In all the years, they were never able to have a loud voice of any kind.
Robert, I think also to your question, that a lot of the basis of it was in the master plan. So I'm not sure where you are in the master plan process, but that really served as a good template for us to move forward, because you had to look at all those different areas. So that's an option to use as a structure moving forward. And then we started the reach out to all the various towns and committees with a letter, just letting them know what we were doing and that we would be contacting them. So, it's starting to get publicity, is starting to get traction. I think the Vicksburg Square special town meeting vote will drive people to that, so that's an opportunity to use that as a topic-based, let's get people involved and let's get the conversation going. And certainly you might want to have a plan for how that's going to go down, and that would really involve maybe looking longer term than simply just the Vicksburg Square option. So you could use it as leverage to get people interested in talking.
Yeah, one of the interesting differences I see from the first Vicksburg Square, where I sat on the finance committee, in this proposal is, I think mass development seems to be a little more open into, like, 6-7 years ago, whenever that was. Finance committee, we asked multiple times, what does disposition mean? What does what does that bring? And Ed Starzyk sat at this meeting and he's like, well, the towns make that decision. Never said that 6 years ago. So I think communications along those lines will give people that vision, like, yes, we should start looking at it now. The other piece is that, it doesn't have to be 2033. Things could happen before then. So therefore, maybe committees such as this aren't necessarily premature.
Sure. And I think one thing that anybody who's been involved in it understands the difference between the redevelopment function and the municipal function. And typically in a base closure, you have a redevelopment function and you don't have a municipal function because the power is never taken away from the underlying political jurisdiction. And it's very unusual, if not unique, that mass development is acting and providing municipal services. That really is, and we're not talking about the towns taking away that redevelopment function from mass development. They still have the requirement to continue all the, whatever elements of the reuse plan that haven't been implemented with respect to infrastructure, environmental protection, it still falls to them, as well as marketing available building sites and attracting industry. That would never change regardless of the resumption of political jurisdiction. And I think that needs to be understood because, I mean, that is their expertise and they do it very well. And you know, again, that would be one of you know, the goals of an implementation plan, to make that clear that their efforts to continue along with the Enterprise Commission would be provided for under an implementation plan.
I do agree with you with the various department heads. I think that's a good start to any committee because it involves all departments,
Yep.
the DPW, fire, schools, economic development. There's a lot to digest there, a lot of different areas of expertise. So I absolutely agree with that part of your plan. I think we should do the same.
Okay. And we're here to consult if you have any questions or if you'd like us to attend a meeting. We're happy to do that. And then we'll continue to, you know, send our meeting minutes to you and try to keep this process really as transparent as possible.
I really
Great.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Thanks for your work on this.
Thank you both.
Talk to you soon.
So nice
Nice to meet you.
Be in touch. Victor will be in touch.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You want to roll right into the update and appointments of the Air Committee?
Sure. So, Mr. Chairman, the Board of Selectmen here in Ayer recently, a few meetings back, authorized by a vote a creation of a Ayer Devon's Disposition Committee modeled largely, at least initially modeled largely after the Harvard model that we just heard about. And that was in one of the previous packets. And the composition of the committee was to consist of a representative from the Board of Selectmen, 2 representatives from the Planning Board, 5 residents, of which 3 would be from the Devon's portion of Ayer, and then the Community and Economic Development Director as the professional staff member, as well as support to the committee from my office and the town planner. So it'd be a 9-member committee. And we advertised for just over 2 weeks, as we usually do for vacancies or opportunities for citizen involvement. That closed on Friday, December 28th. And frustratingly, the representatives from the planning board have not been selected yet because they didn't have a quorum at their last meeting where they were going to select those. So we don't have the planning member designees. The board of selectmen needs to decide its designee. And we've had to date 3 applicants that have applied to be on the committee, but we don't have a full complement of 5. And those appointments are to be made by the Board of Selectmen. And so I was sort of looking for guidance from the board as to how we would like to proceed. Because one of my concerns is that this is obviously a big issue, and to be successful, it needs to move forward, and we want to make sure that we have the right folks on the committee that are committed there's no term limit to the appointment either, because as Victor mentioned, and I agree with him in Harvard, that this is going to be more than a year process, and the intent was to meet, monthly initially. But in speaking with Alan as well, we don't want to just create another committee, and we want to make sure that the folks getting on the committee fully understand the commitment that's going to be involved. So,
And don't have, an agenda to be on the committee. There's some people that feel very, very
Yeah.
strongly no
Right.
matter what you say about either way, whatever, however you choose, but.
Yeah, I think it's worth doing some sort of a mission statement, almost what our expectations are that the committee would focus on, just to provide applicants with that information. On the question on the Devon's residents, do they have to reside within the Ayer jurisdiction, or can it just be Devon's residents in general?
that
And I think that's probably a question we should have asked our previous
that's a good
visitors.
question, because we didn't really quite specify
Yeah.
that. And one of the next steps is I did get from the town clerk a specific list of those folks, because it's obviously a
Mhm.
select population, but I don't know if the board wants to restrict it at that level, to your point.
Can we follow up with Mr. Norman and ask what they're doing in Harvard, and why don't we follow suit? If they're looking at just taking people from the Harvard jurisdiction, we should probably stick to the Ayer jurisdiction.
Yeah, my guess is they would be, just that would be my
It would
opinion.
be,
You
yeah,
might have
most
a
likely.
resident in Harvard that really enjoys having their children go to the Harvard. You know what I mean? It's just,
Yeah.
there's a whole lot of variables there. In terms of our member, did you guys discuss that?
From the selectmen.
Yes.
I'm happy to do that.
Okay, because I was going to nominate you. But yeah, you have a lot of knowledge of Devon's, and you would have been my pick even if I didn't want to do it. But
I appreciate that.
should we vote on that, or because it's
Sure.
nominate, make a motion to.
Should we wait for a full board?
Do we
Yeah,
need a
let's
full
wait
board?
for a full
All right.
board,
I didn't
please.
know if you needed it tonight, but. Okay.
So if we're going to go with just Devon's residents from the Ayer jurisdiction, is it worth doing just a direct mailer?
Yeah, I don't think
Just-
the list is too long.
Yeah, instead
Yeah,
of,
that's it.
because my thought was, let's go to a Devon's committee meeting, like, I'm happy to go there and do an announcement there, but that's more generally open to everyone. If we can do a more direct marketing to
Mhm.
them,
Mm-hmm.
might stir up some interest.
Okay.
And maybe Alan can do something too. And I don't mean that in a good way, but a short video or. Yeah, and I know you're a little shy with the camera, but if you don't mind, those do get the word out, and our meetings don't necessarily get out to everybody. But
No, the Office of Community and Economic Development is ready and prepared to launch a good recruitment and attraction platform.
yeah,
And I was, just thinking about this a little bit myself. It's, there might be some benefit. 102 years ago this spring is when Devon's was sited at this place. 102 years ago, 4 generations. It's very deep. Right now, Ayer's an interesting transition place where you have a lot of the families that have been here for generations. And this is just my take on this. I think there might be some value to having some of those families, because they have the deep institutional knowledge, of what Devon's meant, how it affected this town and all this. But the other thing that intrigues me is we have so many new people and families moving into this town right now. What intrigues me is, boy, would it be this fascinating mix of families that have been here a long time and have that deep history, with the base in Ayer, but folks, frankly, that have fresh eyes on this.
Mhm.
They're not carrying all that baggage, frankly, of, all this stuff. And to me, they're very future-oriented. They're young. Hey, they're kids right now that are 2 years old, are just going to be hitting their 20s, when this comes through into it. So really planning for those families. So it might be interesting to be able to get a little bit of a mix of those, and those families that have been here can help the new ones understand, but the new folks in town can help the old timers say, let go of the baggage, free your mind, look at this very, first. So I don't know, that's what I'm kind of seeing, might be a beneficial dynamic of that.
Okay. And also, back to the department heads, they also have to start looking, I mean,
Yeah, we've already asked
yeah, and
them to
I know they have in the
start, yeah.
past too.
They've done it a couple times.
Yeah, they have. This has been brought up a few times over the last few years.
I think too, which was good to hear tonight, again from Victor, as sort of a blueprint too, when he mentioned as a function of the committee, identify what the costs of resumption would be. So obviously, the members of this committee would be assigned, to certain departments, because a lot of that information rests with the departments. The potential revenue piece, the impacts to the town in the areas of conflict is sort of the first four sort of broad categories to identify. So I think that, because what the board approved, the charge for the committee is somewhat broad. It's based on what they did in Harvard, but maybe if we need to sort of further refine that mission statement, do some outreach to the Devon's folks. The planning board will have met, I think, by the next time the BOS has met to select
Are they
their
scheduled
people.
for next
I don't know if we have
Tuesday,
it.
Are they
They're
going to-
usually second and fourth.
Oh, I didn't know if-
Next Tuesday.
Are they
Yeah.
going to do to make up for the, okay.
Yeah,
All
so
right, so it was last
then
Tuesday, that's right.
we'll be, it'll be shaping more. And I mean, of course, the three folks that applied, I mean, we should, as the board does, wants to interview them
Mhm.
in
Okay.
a point.
All right, so we'll have more information, obviously, at our next meeting.
Yep.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Anything else with that, Scott?
No, thank you.
All right, moving right along. Mrs. Barbara Tierney, Treasurer and Tax Collector.
Hi, how are
Hi.
you?
Nice to meet you. I was
Oh, nice
out
to
on
meet you.
sick leave or something when you were hired.
Let me say hello then. Nice to meet you.
Sorry. I feel like this is like the first time I've ever come to the building.
You knew, yeah.
So, Mr. Chairman,
you're
if
acting like it.
I might, Barbara obviously will speak to a reserve fund transfer request she has regarding the tax title account. And I also asked Barbara, just briefly, to give the board an overview of the proactive approach she has taken since she's joined us the end of July with respect to tax title. As this board is aware, the issue of tax title had somewhat fallen behind previously, and I've been very pleased with Barbara's real proactive approach to going after this money through tax title in her plan. So if there is an objection, briefly, I mean, obviously the RFT, but if you want to just give just a brief update of what you've been doing in terms of tax title.
Sure, thank you, Robert. So just to start, what a lot of people don't understand what going into tax title means, and they automatically assume it means we take your home, and it doesn't. So what happens is when we have a real estate commitment, it gives us a official lien on that property for 3.5 years. After that 3.5 years, you need to, in order to keep that lien as a permanent lien on the property, if they are in arrears for their taxes, you have to do a tax taking. And that literally takes it from the tax collector's bucket and accruing at 14% and puts it into the treasurer bucket and accrues at 16%. And then that secures the town's interest in the property. So what that means is that no other creditor can get paid before us. We do not subordinate to anybody, and we have first right. So if the house gets sold or any other action like a mortgage foreclosure, we have to be paid first. So that's what a tax taking and why it's so important. So what I've done so far is we did a tax taking up through fiscal 15 to play catch up, and I'd like to start the process in the spring for another one to do 16 and 17 fiscal years, so that by the following year I'll be doing them on time. And that's my plan. So I just want to mention too, again, it doesn't mean we take their home. The next process after tax taking is what's called land court. And that does possibly start the process for putting somebody into foreclosure. in my experience, it starts the communication. A lot of times people just don't respond, and it's to their benefit if we kind of force them to respond, because 16% is high. It accrues fast, and a lot of people are thinking, oh, I only owe $2,000 in taxes, when all of a sudden their interest doubles what owes, and it's legally unforgivable. I can't just say, oh, you don't have to pay that. So by doing these steps that are laid out in Massachusetts law, it allows me to, protect the other taxpayers who are paying their taxes, and as well protect the ones who aren't, because the ones that are struggling don't realize the hole they're digging themselves into. And my experience has been that in the end, when we do take these steps properly and go through the process, people feel better, and they really do feel better. So it helps pay the town, and do well for our budget, as well as help our residents, in my opinion. I have a wonderful tax title attorney that we use here in Ayer, and she's very good at helping me communicate with residents and taking on some of the more, the legal aspects. They specialize just in tax title. So, for example, I've done a tax taking, and before we did the ad for the tax taking, we put out a letter of intent that the tax title attorney helped me. She helped me vet a bunch of properties that had been delinquent for a number of years, because as you know, we were behind. Just right there, one large payoff we got was $31,000, which was $22,000 in taxes and $9,000 recouped in interest and fees. After that, when I placed the ad, before the taking happened, I had one large payoff of $57,000, which was $40,000 in taxes and $17,000 in interest and fees. And then since I've started, I have started the land court process for 3 existing long-time tax titles, and one of those paid off, which was $18,000 in taxes and $10,000 in interest and fees. So just since July, we've taken in $80,000 in taxes and $36,000 interest and fees, and those were only one of those was in tax title already. So these preemptive steps we've done with the tax title attorney and starting the process, a lot of people, they just don't realize what's happened, and it does help the town and us in the long run. So so that leads me to the, or unless do you have any questions?
No, just a comment. I mean, it's fantastic. I mean, it probably shouldn't have been behind, but it is a process that is, I'm sure to the people who are paying 16% interest aren't happy about, but it's protecting the interest of all of us and everybody that pays their taxes.
Mm-hmm.
Because ultimately, our taxes, the people who pay their taxes are paying for the people who aren't paying their taxes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And we demonstrated with water and sewer shutoffs from 5 years ago that I think we started it was 300,000. Like, what were we down to last year? When we implemented the program, it was under 20, wasn't it, in money owed or something?
Yep.
And delinquent. So obviously, being aggressive is not being mean. It's the law.
I don't see it as mean at all. It's
No,
quite the
I agree.
opposite. It's helping people need to get caught up.
Mhm.
And I think sometimes people, they hide and they don't understand how much the debt is, and it does feel good once you can clear it up. And we are always willing to work, and I'm always willing to communicate with people. And I always say, if somebody's falling a little behind, just keep calling me, keep talking, and letting me know where you're at. And we're not just willy-nilly,
No, that's a
trying
good
to-
message too to get out there.
Yeah.
Yep.
So the reserve fund transfer I was asking for is, there's a few bills I do need to pay for, that I've already gone over the budget. And I was hoping to start another tax taking process. Even if I don't get to the point of the ad before the end of the fiscal year, I'd like to start some of there's a lot of legwork I do ahead of time, researching at Mass Land Records and vetting with the tax title attorney to make sure the taking is done correctly.
So as,
No, it all seems to certainly correlate with everything you've been doing so far.
I'll make a motion to approve reserve fund transfer for tax title to account 01158-52000 in the amount of $103.30.
Second, all in favor?
Aye?
Aye.
just a point of clarification, that's, the 103.30 is the amount currently in the budget
Oh.
remaining.
Yeah, I was gonna say, boy, we're.
The request is
It's
for,
12,000, right?
is for $12,000.
It's not on the, it's 12,000 even.
Right here.
Yeah.
I just estimated,
Yeah.
so instead,
That's at the
Is
bottom.
it on?
so I won't know what the
Is that
next
the
ad will be yet.
Oh,
until-
sorry, I didn't go down to the next page, my apologies.
So if you look on the second page, I just kind of see how I estimated upcoming possible expenses.
I'll make a new motion then,
Okay.
my apologies. Make motion to approve tax title, reserve fund transfer to tax title account 01158-5200 in the amount of $12,000.
Second, all in favor?
Aye,
Aye.
sorry about that.
Motion passes. Oh, I'm gonna sign this one.
I'll give you this original back.
Okay.
And then, have you talked to the finance committee yet? Well, okay, we'll put that
Oh,
up
it's just
tomorrow.
one?
Just one, yep. And we'll get you scheduled on finance committee. So, you know, do that.
Great. Thank you, good
Thank
work,
you.
Barbara.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
Good night.
Barbara, thank
Bye.
you. All right.
You're up, sir.
All right, Mr. Chairman, Selectman Hood, Happy New Year to both of you, and welcome back,
Thank you.
Selectman Hillman.
Thank you.
Just a couple of quick things under my administrative update. You have in your packet all of the town warrants that have been reviewed and approved since the Board of Selectmen last met on December 18th. The FY 2020 budget process is well underway. All FY 2020 department budgets were submitted by the deadline of January 4th of 2019. I'm currently working with the buy board to give the budget and the budget materials what I'm calling a new look, or what we're calling a new look that is designed to make the information clearer for the public and also to try some new approaches to increase participation and understanding with the budget in the town meeting process. We are now in what I'm calling the review phase of the budget from January 4th till February 8th. Per the budget calendar approved by the board, all initial comments from the BOS and the FinCom are due by February 8th of 2019. And so any questions, any comments, suggestions, it would be best if, and I will transmit this to the FinCom as well, is to send them to me, and then we will make sure that that information is simultaneously communicated to the BOS and to the FinCom. Also, as I mentioned in the packet, for all of the standing BOS meetings, I'll have an FY20 budget update under my report, which will be an opportunity for the selectmen and/or I to discuss any budget issues and so forth as we move forward. Additionally, since January 4th, the finance manager and I have been meeting with departments regarding further efficiencies in departmental budgets. So if I give you a quick snapshot of the FY 2020 budget as of January 15th, and as the board knows, as well as I do, the budget is an ongoing process, but all the budgets that were submitted were level funded per the directive. They did break out any new costs, which were obviously part of our meeting, is looking at those new costs and new requests. There are no new personnel positions per the board and per the directive in the budget. New items and requests have been clearly delineated. There are placeholders for the new OSHA requirements effective February 1st. When the new OSHA requirements go into effect, as the board's aware, I reported that there would be additional costs that we had not anticipated in that budget.
Any significant? I mean,
Well, the largest, if you look at the fire, right now there's a placeholder for $25,000. That's for the changes in the physicals. There are smaller amounts in facilities and in police. And we have formed an internal safety committee and an OSHA committee, and we are also working with town council, because in typical state fashion, February 1st is almost here, yet we don't have all of the information. So I did notify the board once we found out. We do have placeholders in there. We will keep the board and the FinCom apprised as we further refine and adjust that moving forward. The regional school district, Dr. Malone will be here on February 5th to present the FY 2020 budget for the district and to discuss the fields, and I'll get to the field update in just a minute under my report. Dr. Pigeon from the Neshoba Valley Technical High School would like to come to your second meeting, the February 19th meeting. Just very briefly, she'd like to just give the board a brief update on their assessment and another accelerated roof project that they're looking at. The health insurance assessment is anticipated to be for February of 2019. We have budgeted 15% for the estimated increase. We remain, fingers crossed, and hopeful that it comes under. Mr. Johnston has been attending those meetings, but we'll have that information. The insurance line items for February, again, February, Ms. Antonellis is working on that. We'll have the specifics. We have budgeted 10% placeholders at this time on recommendation from the insurer, but we hope to have some savings there. Mr. Chair, as you know, the capital planning process continues. The next meeting is on January 24th. After next week's meeting, I'll provide for both the BOS and the FinCom a synopsis of the recommended votes. A lot of votes were taken, but there are still a lot of outstanding items. Two of the big focal points of the meeting on the 24th are going to be remaining DPW items as well as the parks building, which we've had some frustrations and challenges getting off of the ground, and we'll have more to report on that after that meeting. I'm meeting with those departments actually tomorrow in preparation for that meeting. The other challenge that we've identified in the capital planning process has to do on the water side. The rate review committee is actually meeting tomorrow to start that process. But one of the challenges is that we have been very successful in keeping both the water and sewer rates within the rate model that the town has developed. And there's just been some added pressure, if you will, on the water side with the $4.2 million on the PFAS treatment plant. So we have to balance some of those requests against the PFAS issue. The superintendent will give an update to the rate review committee on the PFAS issue, and I've asked him when he comes to the next meeting on the 5th to give a brief update for the board as to where we are on the PFAS plant project. And lastly, the contract negotiations are underway and are pretty much on schedule and within parameters, and we'll have more information on that in the near future. So again, we
Good job getting that started.
We appreciate any thank you. We appreciate any comments and input. I also, as the FinCom begins to meet with the departments, either myself, Ms. Gabri, Ms. Antonellis, or a combination of us, plan to be at all of those meetings to be a resource for the committee and also the departments as we move forward. Lastly, the RFP for the Senior Center COA feasibility study has been posted in the Central Register for professional consultant services. I want to thank Ms. Antonellis and Mr. Wetzel for their efforts in putting together that proposal, as the board would remember, through the capital process and on recommendation of the BOS and approval at town meeting. There's $30,000 to do a feasibility study to look at the Council on Aging in the Senior Center, all of its programs, needs, as well as projecting needs into the future. Just to be clear, this is just a feasibility study looking at the whole issue. It is not funding to begin a bricks and mortar construction. We don't even know if that is going to be a recommendation. It may be one of the recommendations, but that process has started, and we'll keep the BOS updated. After this RFP process, I envision obviously a committee being put together that does involve community input, public input, and so forth as we move forward. The master plan implementation plan, we have started, and Alan, at my request, has begun to convene departmental working groups focusing on developing an implementation plan matrix for the implementation plan. So that each of the categories, we had the first internal meeting having to do with transportation. And I'd like to give an update at the February 19th BOS meeting on that implementation plan and show you, as we talked before, and then quarterly report to the board and to the public. This is where we are on these various issues. These are the ones we have accomplished or are in process, so that, unlike, and nothing against previous efforts, but that the actual implementation plan gets implemented, and progress is being made on that. Two last things. The general code, if the board recalls, quite some time ago, funding was authorized to do a full legal review and organization of the town's bylaws and traffic regulations. An internal committee consisting of Selectmen Livingston, the police chief, Miss Antonellis, the town clerk, and myself started that process. It was a long process initially, but I'm pleased to report that the legal review portion has been completed. And so the next step is now the internal group will reconvene to work on the organization and the edits. And again, a special thanks to Ms. Antonellis for interfacing with our general code. When we're done, all of the town's bylaws and traffic regulations will be legally consistent, clearly organized, and in all one central location. And I think that will serve the public and the town and our departments very well. And lastly, in terms of the MART project, the water and sewer connection infrastructure for the bathroom building has been completed. The paving of Depot Square was completed. Bids for the project are due January 23rd to MART. We are finalizing the Depot Square commuter rail station tile wrap project that was approved recently by the board, and we will have a report for February 5th, actually before then, once we find out what happens out at MART. So that's my administrative update. I do appreciate the time on that, as it's been a while since we met in the new year. I gave the budget update. The athletic fields project update I put on here at the request of the board. As the board is aware, the certified letter was sent from the school district to both select boards of selectmen and both FinComs in each town, Ayer and Shirley, as a result of the situation with the failed vote in Shirley. The school district, as I read it, is proposing two general potential approaches. One is, as the superintendent states in the letter, now all of these safety deficiencies and ADA requirements have been identified through this process, and it's incumbent upon the district to rectify those. I spoke with Dr. Malone recently, and when she comes for the 5th, they're currently costing out what those improvements, safety and ADA improvements, would cost. And I said that would be helpful for the board and the FinCom and for the town of Ayer to have that information. The other piece, as you saw in the letter, is do they go back to Shirley for another vote on the project. So I expressed to her that the board is looking forward to her budget presentation on the 5th, but I also anticipate through the board quite a few sort of questions about the status of the field moving forward.
Just to clarify, their question about whether to go back to Shirley is for the funding mechanism for the project, not the project itself.
Right, thank you. Yep, good distinction, yep. The next item I have is the adult use recreational marijuana update. So a few things. One, I recently met with Mr. Hillier, and he has expressed to the town that his intent to open his recreational location in the first quarter of this year, so by March 1st, to be open. He would ideally like it to happen in February. He has pretty much done the building project, and now it's getting approval from the Cannabis Control Commission to open. I did convene a meeting with him internally and the chiefs in DPW to discuss when he does open. A couple of things. One is his security plan, which is quite comprehensive and has is prescribed by the Cannabis Commission also has to be approved by the police chief. So they will be meeting on the security system. And the biggest issue is going to be the traffic. As you gentlemen are probably well aware, the location that opened up recently in Leicester, the location already has traffic challenges with the rotary, and it is on a state highway. I know that Superintendent Wetzel has also been in communication with Mass DOT because, as the board is aware, that road is technically state highway, so certain modifications or temporary modifications, they need to be in the loop. We're going to meet again on February 11th to further discuss the traffic plan and the security plan. I did suggest to Mr. Hillier, and he was going to take it under advisement. He seemed amenable to it. He's not legally required to do this, but before he opens, perhaps doing a public information session or so forth to explain what to expect, when they're opening. He's also looking at appointment only, soft opening, but he has been very responsive to our two concerns, which are the security, but also the traffic.
To the traffic, sorry to interrupt, we're making sure that this is not going to be a cost on the town if we do need details, whatever, for the first week, or I don't want it coming out of the town budget if we...
So, a good point, Selectman Hillman. He indicated to us, without us even having to bring it up, that any costs for details or so forth will be bore by him and his organization.
I mean, it doesn't surprise me. He's done
Yeah.
everything correct. I just wanted to
Yeah.
make sure we were on record with that we don't have a 8-hour-a-day detail officer there for a month.
And he also said to me, if the board would like, as we get closer to that opening or after the opening, he'd be happy to come also to the selectmen's meeting and answer any questions or concerns the board may have. Now, under this same topic, so in addition to that opening, we're in the process of finalizing the design options for the Welcome to Ayer sign, because we'd like to get that obviously done in the spring, so we'll have more of that in the very near future for the board. The other thing is, we recently have been advised by DOR that the host agreement funding goes into the general fund, but town meeting has to actually appropriate it for its specific purposes. So this is not a big issue, but just so the board is aware, we'll have to have a warrant article or articles, where hopefully it's just one article, like a capital article, for those specific projects to be appropriated moving forward. And now we know this was an unknown area at the time, that the host agreement goes into the general fund and then has to be appropriated by town meeting. Two last things related to this issue. The other, obviously, once it opens, 3% of all of the sales goes to the town. We will have further, obviously, discussions once that happens as to, we have no metrics as to how much that's going to be. But for example, the Leicester location did almost $2 million in the first week. So there'll be policy decisions.
I hope John does very well up there.
There's policy decisions that will have to be made.
It's good to get in early.
Yeah.
The final thing, and I really do appreciate the Board of Selectmen being willing to call a special town meeting for June 10th for the purposes of the recreational marijuana bylaw. As we've been discussing, and we have been advised that by July 1st, the town really needs to have in place a framework to deal with all of these other aspects and functions of this issue. In other words, it's not just the recreational, but delivery, cafe, lab, and so forth. So cultivation is multiple categories.
Testing, right.
Testing. So we are starting again internally to put together a group to get all of this information together so we can communicate it to the appropriate boards and figure out, there's going to be, that's why I appreciate the time to June 10th. There are going to be some decisions as a town that we're going to have to make. It's going to require some outreach to inform people, And at town meeting, it's going to require not only presentation of extent, but probably a lot of discussion, because as we know, the minute you mention marijuana, people want to talk about all kinds of aspects. But the specific focus is that regulatory framework, because without that, it's a free-for-all. And I don't think that's in the best interest of the towns, all aspects of the town. So that group is going to start meeting next week, and then as we get that developed, we will begin to communicate that information. But if we don't start internally to at least tee it up, because there's so much out there that's moving, to sort of guide that.
From our understanding, like, you can't limit anything other than retail, so we want to make sure it's zoned in the appropriate locations, obviously.
Yeah.
Also, a benefit, I think, for our internal working group, which is being headed up by myself and Mark Archambault, the town planner. We've asked Chief Murray if Detective Kolarski can sit in, because he's a planning board member in Leicester. So he has like a very unique perspective, both as law enforcement and as a planning board member with that situation in Leicester. So I think he's going to be helpful moving us, forward on
I
that.
agree.
Excellent.
I think it also helps timing too with John's establishment opening up. We can kind of see how that obviously works and that doesn't work, and kind of go off that as well for June.
Yeah, because that, with the retail operation, that's the most impact, right? Like, so a grow facility or a testing lab wouldn't have the traffic or people in off the
correct.
street. So we're gonna start really looking at that, teeing it up for June.
Are there same tax benefits for the town?
No.
They're different for facilities
Just
like
for
that? right?
retail, you can get the 3%.
Okay, so
Yeah.
it would just be a regular,
It would be the taxation
regular tax
and
rate
the
for-
personal property on
Okay.
equipment.
Yeah.
okay.
But Mr. Hillier obviously worked very well with the board when the board said we don't want this located downtown, and meaning in this district, but that, we don't have that codified.
We've been very fortunate with Mr. Hillier on both
Yeah.
locations with his willingness to do the right thing and work with the town. And I think this is good that you're moving forward, because we're not going to always get that attitude from people who really don't give a damn about Ayer except for the location, or John being from this area, obviously, so that's helped guide his decisions, so.
So there will definitely be a lot more to come on that as things are underway. The first action item, Mr. Chairman, a license update. There's been a request to change the name from Sean's Auto Center, located at 42 Littleton Road, to Smart Auto Sales. And through you, had asked Mr. Antonellis just to give the snapshot of the request.
Yes, thank you. So the current operator, Sean Partridge, is no longer gonna be operating the facility. It's gonna be his father. So where it's a smart fuel center, they're gonna do smart auto sales. Everything's the same on the permit as far as restrictions. It's just his dad is now.
We switched this from his dad
We
to
did.
him.
Now we're switching back. So, everything's in good standing as far as being able to reissue it, so I'm just respectfully requesting that you approve the change in name when we'll reissue it under the same license number.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So there's, 2 forms you can do
Yeah, excellent.
here, and then regular spot.
So the next item, Mr. Chair, and I apologize, I get ahead of myself. I already thanked the board for calling a special
I was
town
just saying
meeting.
that. Did you guys do that last week?
My sincere, just in your absence as selectman,
Yeah,
knows.
sorry, I was gonna ask, but I didn't want to seem foolish, like I missed something that
In your
I should've
absence.
saw on TV.
At the last 2 open session meetings of the BOS, we made this request of the selectmen to call this special town meeting for June 10th, which is a Monday at 7 p.m. at the high school auditorium, for 2 items: the marijuana zoning bylaw, as I mentioned, the form-based code bylaw for Park Street, And we have made a formal request, I'm just waiting for confirmation, that if the Vicksburg Square Supertown meeting happens, this was on recommendation of Selectman Hood, that the Supertown meeting take place at that time as well. So we're waiting for confirmation. So respectfully, I'm asking if the board would vote to call a special town meeting for June 10th.
Make a motion to call a special town meeting for Monday, June 10th, 2019, 7 p.m. at the high school auditorium for the purposes outlined by the town manager.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Town meeting is...
May 13th is the annual, and then this will be the special.
Okay.
Yep. Thank you. The next item, as we discussed on December 18th, or I presented on December 18th to the board, previously, as the board is aware, there is an exciting Ayer community garden project currently underway here in the town of Ayer, located up off of Barnum Road. And as I presented on the 18th, a request has come in from the community garden folks. There is the challenge they have is they want to obviously start this spring and be operational this spring and keep the momentum going. The challenge is, and they have done a lot of fundraising, they have gotten a lot of significant in-kind donations, is there's a funding gap. They're going to be applying for CPC funding, which, as the board knows, is subject to BOS approval on May 13th. We're well into the growing season. So at the last meeting, I had asked the board at their request if the board would consider authorizing UDAG funding for the necessary funding to get them from now until town meeting, and we replenish that funding at a future town meeting. In your packet, which was submitted by the group on January 11th, is the breakdown of the schedule, but the materials and what they need to be able to open for the 2019 growing season. And those materials, along with a 20% contingency, totals $14,820.
I personally have no issue supplementing this for the start of to get this project rolling.
I agree. I think it's a great program, good location, gets people out, builds community.
And Mr. Chairman, just for the record, Ms. Carnan, who's been sort of spearheading it along with some other folks that are here tonight as well. So Jess from CPC. So again, we don't normally do this, but it's a unique time-sensitive gap that we have, that they have to get this project going. And I think given that, it's in my opinion anyway, it's a reasonable request for a good project.
And the rest of the funds are coming through CPC, is that correct? Or a majority portion?
I think we were thinking that the funding from CPC could be used to replenish what we take out for this UDAG thing.
Okay.
But yeah, we really want to support the momentum. And unfortunately, we didn't hear about it until September, and at that point it was too late for us to do a public hearing and have the application ready for fall town meeting. So, but it's a great project, so.
No, it is, and I'm assuming this isn't a yearly cost. This is to get the project, the site up and going, and fencing and trees and safety and parking. Yeah.
And then expanding the beds in
Yeah.
second and third year as well.
Yep, great. I would make a motion that the BOS authorize $14,820 from the UDAG unrestricted funds to facilitate the 2019 spring opening of the Ayer Community Garden. The funds will be replenished at a future date.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you for your continued work on that. I think it's going to be a great project.
Thank you. The next item, Mr. Chairman, which the board has seen before from the ABCC, the town is required to submit a certified 2019 seasonal population increase estimation form, which Ms. Antonis has prepared. So we would be looking.
Yep, just for approval of the form, our town clerk estimates will roughly be the same population at 7,300. We won't be expecting an influx of summer visitors, and that our population should stay pretty consistent. So just recommending approval on that.
We haven't reached Lake Winnipesaukee levels yet.
No, not yet.
Martha's Vineyard or...
I'll make a motion to approve the 2019 seasonal population increase estimation form as presented.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Let's wait for us to vote before we sign.
Yeah, it's true.
The next item, members of the board, I don't know if you've had an opportunity tonight as it's been activated, but the...
It wasn't even there the other day.
Yeah.
Did it just go up?
Yes.
Yeah, yesterday.
Yeah. So, as the board will recall, the town, through the capital process, the Board of Selectmen and town meeting, which we appreciate, authorized the outdoor electronic signboard, which is on the outside of the fire station at the intersection of Park and Main Street. And the intent is for that signboard to be used for emergency and public notifications related to the town of Ayer, winter parking ban, winter storm warning, other town-related things, town meeting tonight, so forth. I do want to thank Chuck Schultz, the facilities director, and Cindy Knox for getting it up, as well as the fire chief for hosting it. Like anything, there's always quirks and so forth, but it is up, it is functional, and they'll be working on the programming for it. So what I have before the BOS, while we knew this was going to be coming in January, several months ago, the IT committee convened to develop an electronic signboard policy, because as with anything, we want it to be very clear with the policy governing how the sign is going to be, how the sign is going to work, how the sign is going, what it's going to be used for. And you have a copy of that policy as approved by the IT committee for recommendation for your approval. With your approval, this policy will be on the town's website, and there's an electronic application form as well. The primary purpose of the electronic signage is obviously to provide information to residents and businesses of Ayer regarding public safety, official town matters, and government events. The town reserves a right to do the following: to remove any content at the discretion of the town manager, the emergency management director, who is Chief Pedrazi, and the IT director. The following content is not allowed: political notices including candidate endorsements and policy positions, religious notices and/or postings promoting events affiliated with religious institutions and organizations, for-profit posts and/or advertisements, any personal information and/or announcements, i.e. birthdays and anniversaries. All announcements and requested posts must be related in some way to the town of Ayer. All announcements are deemed public records under Massachusetts general law. All requests for postings must be submitted to the town's IT director and town manager using the town's submission form. These guidelines may be amended by the Board of Selectmen, preferably with recommendation from the IT committee. The town reserves the right to refuse any content at its discretion. The town reserves the right to remove and/or replace any content in the event of a public safety notification and/or other unanticipated time-sensitive public notification taking precedence. This policy only covers permanent or permanently fixed electronic signboards and does not include internal electronic bulletin boards, directories, or any internal electronic signage.
Cindy, will it be Cindy that is in control of it?
Yes.
And it has to be, does it have to be done on site, or does it?
It can be done remotely, and it can be done on site or remotely. And Cindy and the fire chief have control of that. So obviously, the thing is, we used to do banners there, you know, they're not gonna do banners anymore. Because the sign obviously was purchased with public funds, with the whole separation of church and state, unfortunately, religious-related notifications and so forth, we can't do. We'll have to figure out.
So my question is, so on number 3, it says all announcements requested posts must be related in some way to the town of Ayer. Will there be the opportunity for nonprofits like the Cub Scouts, the Girl Scouts, the Boy Scouts?
Yep.
Have items, you know, like the pancake breakfast, et cetera. And then a couple of other big events in town that comes to mind is the St. Mary's, that would be prohibited because it's religious, correct? Okay.
So
Yeah.
Chief Pedrazi is gonna, he's gonna talk to the church. I
Okay,
mean, they have
that's
a
fine.
banner, there are perhaps some other locations and so forth.
I don't think we could if we wanted to.
Right,
Yeah,
it's
I
just
just wanna
like.
make sure it's
and listen,
clear.
Right,
Yeah.
and that's
Okay.
why we did the policy as well. We're not singling out anyone, but under the Department of Revenue, it's against state law to use public funds for any religious purpose. Now, the St. Mary's Lawn Party, I don't think offends,
No,
but it's in violation of state law, so.
and they've always been respectful of that in terms of banners and stuff. I mean, that's-
Right,
yeah.
but we obviously, just so this board knows, we had a lot of discussion about this, we're very sensitive to that, we want them to succeed, but unfortunately, just like it's the holiday tree lighting.
Yeah.
Want to comment on that, Mary?
But to Selectman Hood's point, of course, and they can program it in a way too where, so the different scout things, all these nonprofit things.
And school activities.
Right,
et cetera.
and like,
Yeah, that was-
and like the chief was saying, if those things are running, that's with the policy, but then there's a big storm or something, he can override that.
And this is open to all departments. I mean, like, I'm just, you know, every department. Alan might have something that he had at the fire station that he might want to put up there, or maybe there's a holiday, oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I get that right, holiday concert or something at the school or whatever, open house. I mean, we're going to use it that way.
Yes, yep, and anybody can apply. The application will be online tomorrow, and for those who don't use computers, we'll have a hard copy version of that here. But I'd be respectfully looking for the board's approval, and this was approved by the IT committee, and we'd be open to any feedback as we keep it going.
Just keep it slow and simple so we don't have cars in
Yes.
the subway.
And I think that
Reading the
intent is
sign.
to have some sort of standard, you know, some standard images, if you will, at times. But it tells the time and temperature and all of that.
It wasn't up yesterday. I mean, I drove by there.
It was.
In the morning it was. They move fast.
Yeah, it went up, yeah, you're right, by 10 o'clock-ish.
Probably too. I mean, I
Let's
just,
take a vote.
yeah, let's take a vote, sorry.
Do you have any other questions? All right.
I don't want to talk all night now.
All right. I'll make a motion to approve the Town of Ayer electronic signage policy.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Go home that way now.
The last,
Just sign this.
the last item in your packet is a request that the board vote to approve and execute the deed for the Ridgeview Realty Trust Lot H1. And you have all of the material in your packet, and to cut to the chase, Lot H1 is currently the lot where the town's dog park is. That was transferred to the town. Obviously, the dog park is built there, and we're looking for the board to vote to approve and sign the deed as it is now town land.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, that concludes my report, and I thank you for your time, and I look forward to continuing to work with you in 2019.
want to go first, Scott?
Sure. So the first item I wanted to talk about is Vicksburg Square and more of the project that is being proposed by Mass Development. So they're looking to put in, just to reiterate, 300, change the zoning to allow for 300 residential apartments, if you will, at the Vicksburg Square location. And I know we're going to put the committee together to look at disposition, but I think we need to put out some questionnaires to the department heads and the departments in town. I asked the fellow members of the Board of Selectmen to assist with putting those together, particularly any potential concerns, but also possible benefits. For example, with the police and the fire, is there an impact on mutual response? Is there an impact on, particularly on ambulance for the fire department, and what impact that might have on the town of Ayer's service from what we're paying for? Traffic potential with, a project that large, and then, for like economic development, what would they see as the potential benefits?
Okay.
So I would respectfully request that maybe at the February 5th meeting, we can just put together some finalized questions that we can send out.
All of that, those points that you made. It has huge ramifications if it does happen, good and bad, possibly. So.
Yeah, it does have huge ramifications, and then, looking at the way the historical lines are drawn, 75% of it sits in the town of Ayer.
300 units, 3 people a unit. I mean, it really has a big effect on a school system, or
300 units. So they used the Trinity proposal, which was 246 units. And they cut down on the number of family units down to single units, so that got the number of total units up to 300. But they still anticipate, like 500 cars as a possibility, and you'd be looking at a population increase of, 600-700 people possibly.
Yeah, that's significant.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that makes perfect sense. Robert, that's doable for the 5th?
Yeah, we'll talk to the departments, and we'll get some draft questions together and put them in the packet, and we can discuss on the 5th. And
just finalize those
Yeah.
and send them out to departments for their feedback.
I think that's a good idea.
Okay, awesome. The second item I wanted to discuss is the transfer station sticker purchase location, because it's that time of the year again where people struggle to get their new transfer station sticker, and the frustration that the Hood family ran into this year is that I was home on the day after Christmas, but I forgot to go get my sticker, so therefore we were scrambling for a week and a half of trash before we were able to get our sticker. So I'd like to look at possibly opening up 2 possibilities. One is being able to sell them here at Town Hall, which would allow people to utilize the later hours on Tuesdays, open until 5 o'clock during the rest of the week, except Friday. And then also the possibility of selling them at this transfer station itself, like 2 weeks before, 2 or 3 weeks before, and then 2 or 3 weeks after.
They're only at the DPW now, is where you can?
Well, you can do them online, or you can do them via mail. The problem that we run into is the primary car we take to the transfer station is my son's car now, so we need to get the registration for that in order to be able to process even online. And every time we remembered to do that, he had taken the car. So, so just for next year, I'd like to look into some alternatives for people to.
Wait till next year when you have 3 kids driving.
Sorry. I'll want to college.
Yeah, I'm kind of actually surprised that there isn't more locations. It just seems like convenience. I mean, not to add more to the staff here, but the Tuesday night thing does seem to kind of help, especially with the shorter hours.
We'll work with the departments, obviously, to come up with something that maximizes the convenience. It makes sense.
Yeah, one of the other comments, I talked to Robert about this last week, is if your vehicle doesn't change and you still have a valid registration on file, do you need to resubmit the registration? Because we've had, for us, we've had it on the same car for the last 9 years. So if, that would actually aid with the ability to do it online.
So if you have a valid, the registration hasn't changed. You
Yeah,
have to
registration
resubmit it.
hasn't changed, same car, same license plate.
Kind of like the census, it says where you work and what you do, and you either change it or just sign it at the bottom and
Yeah.
move on. Yeah, that kind of makes sense.
Okay.
That's all I had, thank you.
Good, thank you. So I believe this is in our bylaws, and I just kind of bounce this off Janice because she knows more, has been through these bylaws probably a lot more than I have, but meeting with department heads in terms of updates, and I think tonight was a good example of why that's beneficial with Barbara. I know since the town manager position, you do a lot of that, and it's great, a lot of stuff that we used to authorize, but based on everybody else's input, but just, I don't know, every couple months, it'd be nice to have the police chief in for an update on, I'd like to know if the parking division is back up and running with the new hire. Is he at full staff? Any programs that are going on? Chief Pedrazi, I got the new ambulance. It's beautiful. I got to see it firsthand. Really nice. But, stuff like that. Obviously we see Mark all the time. It's kind of unusual. It's been 2 days in a row.
Had an off night tonight.
But do you understand what I mean? Not
Yes.
in terms of parks, just, Jeff or Jason come in from the committee or anybody. It could be the Deputy Chief Gill. It doesn't have to be the chief, but, a representation to kind of just let the people know. I found Barbara's,
Yes.
5-minute thing on tax title very,
Yep. Selectman Hillman, I agree with you, and as we've discussed, and I've actually, since we've discussed, I've talked to some of the department heads, and so in the BOS policies, you are correct, in the policies it says that the board may have departments, from time to time to report on things and so forth, which I think now becomes somewhat more pertinent under the town manager form of government, because a lot of those administrative nuts and bolts things are away. And part of the intent of that was to free up the BOS to focus on the policy issues and bigger issues. One of the things is on appointments, and the chiefs both agree with me that as we appoint new people on an administrative level, specifically patrolmen, firemen, and so forth, we would like the chiefs to bring them to a BOS meeting, at least on a quarterly basis, because we don't hire that often, but as appropriate, come so that the board meets the individual as does the public. So,
and that I think is key.
Yeah.
There's so many new officers, which is great, but
right.
getting to know them, I don't know them all. When I first moved to town, you get to know them, and a lot of turnover and stuff to get them out there.
So we do have 2 new ones and 2 new dispatchers. So I asked Chief Murray, and we'll schedule this, and he agreed to come to a BOS meeting with these individuals, and if some of them can't make it, at least he can report on them.
Sure.
So, and then I think also, I also agree that with some of these other departments, coming forward to talk about specific things, to give some updates. I think we're all in agreement, so we will, and I look to any input, obviously, from the board as to how we structure it.
Yeah, I don't know if we do it on a schedule, but if we don't put in some policy, it may fall by the wayside, or things get busy, even if it's a 2-minute,
And as you
this is
know,
what's going on with the town clerk.
because this board instituted it some time ago, all of the departments that report to that report to the Board of Selectmen, under the Board of Selectmen, are required to submit a monthly report as well. So I know the board, folks do look at those and so forth. If you see anything or something also of interest, or let us know too, that you'd like more information on, and we can schedule it and discuss as
No, I
well.
think the reports are good. I just
Yeah.
don't know if you're apt to be at home, and I'm gonna go see what's
Yeah.
going on in there.
No, I mean,
Well,
it
it
may
also-
trigger something.
Yeah, but it also keeps the information just between us, though. And
Right.
I think part of what Chris is getting to is also
Yeah.
getting out there the information from the departments to the greater public of what's going on.
Agreed.
So we do have it on our website. Every monthly report is
Okay.
under Robert's page. And then from time to time Cindy has them pre-scheduled Facebook posts that say,
Yeah.
want to know what's going on in town departments. You can check this link and all the department reports are there.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're trying to promote it more. And it's not something in your face, right? When you go to the website, you do have to poke around because you only can put so many things
Yeah,
on the front
sure.
page. So we've asked Cindy to like periodically schedule these refresher updates.
And I think you find a lot of people watch the meetings, they pop up on Facebook, but you might be more apt to click on if you saw Chief Pedrazi or Chief Murray or Charlie, you know, or
Yep.
whatever, just people that, you know, we don't always hear from, because there is a lot going on in all those departments, and like I said, tax title usually isn't interesting, but I found it pretty fascinating tonight on the process.
Yeah,
I mean,
no, Agreed, I mean, and I get it too, it's another venue and another format to get information out.
yeah, and I don't know how we'd structure it in terms of how often. I mean, sometimes they're here, obviously, for other reasons.
Right.
Maybe Alan, Mark are always here for other reasons, but some of the department heads we don't see quite as much. And not, and no fault of theirs, just,
No, I think it will remain a work in progress, but I think we're obviously committed to doing it. Another thing I would suggest too, as now we're into the budget process too, the board, I mean, just as the FinCom, the board has the authority also to meet with any department about, you know, the budget or so forth. So, yeah, we'll work on putting something together.
Yeah.
I want you to know that the departments are on board as far as coming.
Yeah, I'm sure they will, yeah.
Periodically bringing, obviously, new hires is important. It's a small town, you know, for folks to see them. I couldn't agree more. And then as we move forward, let us know, you know, gee, you know, where are we on? You know, we
even
can
just the
structure it.
annual Toys for Tots.
Yeah.
You know, it's always such a huge success in town. You know, maybe, you know, just something simple as that. Maybe Officer McDonald comes and discusses that. I'm just throwing out ideas.
And the other thing too, as it says in the policy, lastly, in addition to the departments, the Board of Selectmen also has the authority, if you want to meet with another committee or commission or board, you know, as well. And maybe that need may present itself as we move forward with the marijuana zoning or so
Sure.
forth, the planning board, or, so I think there's a lot of opportunities.
And that might even, that thing may even go to other committees, like you said. Maybe a planning board member, you know, comes, I'm just kind of rattling off ideas, but I think it might be beneficial for everybody. This is just a idea that I had that kind of came about in the capital process, and obviously needs a lot more thought, but, and I discussed it briefly with Lisa and the committee, and I think I bounced it off you too, Scott, briefly, is having a dedicated fund for engineering projects or pre-engineering, or what we find in the capital process is, you know, these projects are, I mean, there's very few projects that come before us that we feel are ridiculous. So, I mean, the process starts, but the first capital process might be approving the engineering. Well, then now we've approved that, we get to July 1st, then it goes out to bid, and then now we're rolling back into the, I think we did the flood wall 2 years ago at Capitol for the fire department. And I think that's still in the process of.
Yeah, that's FEMA.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and I know it's not anybody's fault, I'm just saying, and I know Mark runs into this with stuff that he
Yeah.
doesn't do in-house. My thought was, you know, obviously be approved by the board, but let's say Superintendent Wetzel said, I really need to get this rolling in terms of the board authorizing us up to a certain amount for engineering, you know. So then when the capital process is saying the board does approve with the project, which I would assume we'd have some back and forth prior to that, it's ready to go. if, you know, we deem it necessary. I don't know how that funding mechanism, I mean, Lisa had some ideas, but obviously we'd have to get, but I think it would help the process. I mean, I could be wrong, but I think we see that. I mean, Mary and Robert, we talk about this all the time on the capital.
I think as we discussed our capital, is that we need to do a better job in this, when I say the scheduling of these projects. All departments, of course, want the money all approved and put in a neat box, but a lot of these things, we need to do the engineering first and then the project. In other words, instead of approving the whole amount, because after you do the engineering and the design and you go through the competitive procurement, you're going to get the most accurate number to request for the actual project. And this is no fault of any, but the last 3 building projects all had to, and one of them isn't off the ground yet, so all had to go out to bid a second time, and also had to get into the whole value engineering, because all the money was asked for up front, but after engineering, procurement, changes in costs and so forth, I think by breaking it down, and I think the superintendent gets it, breaking it down, do the engineering and design, do the competitive procurement, then the construction on these big projects, you're going to get a better project, better budgeting, better prices, and we're going to avoid the arbitrage problem we have had before.
And that's the issue. I mean, besides Mark's engineers, most engineers, value engineer can pretty much show you what a project's going to cost in terms of the standards. Obviously, Mark's engineers are a few $1 million off, but
Mark.
Mark.
Sorry, I thought you
Yeah,
said
not Mark.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think you're right. I mean, for example, I just incurred a 7% increase January 1st on metal. I mean, and that's on top of the 7% increase that happened in July. I mean, when you're building a $2 million steel building, that can drastically change a project, as we're seeing with the Parks building. And it's no fault of theirs, but if it was designed and engineered prior, the money was bought, you're still in that time frame, you get out the bid fast.
The only thing, we have to look into this, that's jumping out at me, we can't go out to bid unless we have a secure appropriation
I
in
agree,
place.
but we can
Engineer.
We can engineer. Though.
Yeah, we can
Yeah,
engineer.
that was my point. We get
Yeah.
the engineering done. I mean, and obviously, we would vet it, or however
I
you
think-
vet it, however that works, but.
I think we all agree
To break it.
on
Yeah.
the concept. Now we just need
Yeah,
to-
exactly.
So we will do some internal work with Lisa and so forth as to what all of the options are, get all of that information, and then the board and in consultation also with the FinCom, we can put together the appropriate policy or so
Yeah,
forth. But
yeah, I think
we
it's-
get it, and there's also the challenge of capacity, as much as, and I appreciate our departments, many of them want to do everything. You can't always do, there's only so much that you can do.
No, absolutely. And the projects that move faster are the ones that are engineered in-house. There's no question about it. That are done in advance, or you can work on. And but there's a lot of stuff that is beyond the scope of Dan and Mark down there. So I don't know if we want to discuss it or speak with Lisa and whoever else in the department heads or whatever and discuss it further.
And we will advise
And a
back.
funding mechanism and
Yeah.
how we would, push that. I mean, obviously Lisa had some ideas, but.
And I'm sure we'll discuss that also some more at Capital too.
Yes, so I just wanted to throw that out there. I think it might be
Okay.
something worth looking into for, moving forward. And I had something else, but I can't remember, so I think it's. Anything else, Scott?
Nothing under new business and selectmen's questions.
All right. Approval of you know how I feel about minutes, but I was not here, obviously, December 18th. Do you want to defer until Janice is here, or? am I
Point
saying
of
yes?
order, can we approve
Yeah,
minutes?
yeah, we can, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then I think we should approve them.
Yeah, I have no problem. Usually Janice will reply back with any edits or anything. Did
Yeah, I
she-
didn't receive any
No?
edits,
Okay.
no.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for December 18th, 2018 as presented.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. I, again, want to thank everybody for all the well wishes. I'm glad I'm back. I wasn't planning on sitting in the big chair tonight. I was going to ease back in, but our next meeting is
February 5th.
February 5th, so we'll see you all February 5th. I make a motion to adjourn for the evening.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.